Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to check in with you on the processes for your closings. We know there are still a lot of closings happening, and a lot of them are occurring virtually as well as in person still. So we wanted to check in to make sure that we're all on the same page to move the process forward as smoothly and efficiently as possible. So first of all, you have a closing. Congratulations, that's fantastic. There's still a lot of activity in our current market. But there are a few things that we need from you in order to get your closing processed. Those things include, first of all, the closing disclosure, the survey of the property, and of course any corporate or company checks. We need all of those. And where does this all start? Well, it really starts with your pay at closing, which can be found in ProWorks. In ProWorks, it's located within the Pay at Closing dashboard within your transaction. Sometimes you have to expand it because of all the information that's needed in order to process this closing as quickly as possible. If you'll take the time just to fill in those items in red, this will really help us get the information input and the closing processed so that you can, of course, get paid on time. If you submit this to your admin a few days before your closing, he or she will be able to go ahead and send information over to the closing agent. So with closings that are happening with you there, that's fantastic. We know that there are still a lot of closings that are happening when everybody gets together. Please don't forget to go ahead and process your pay at closing. This again starts the momentum of everything getting put into place. When you process it through the pay at closing, your admin can send information over to the closing agent. You may also want to share information, for example, the wiring instructions, which also include mailing instructions, with your closing agent. Make sure they have all the right information. There are multiple people involved in the transaction. You probably want to request a copy, an electronic copy of the information or the documents for yourself to upload into ProWorks. And of course, if you're attending the closing, you'll be leaving with your check. Things you want to remind the closing agent about are the closing agent should have those wiring instructions, and they can choose either to wire the Coldwell Banker Vanguard funds to Coldwell Banker into our commissions account, or they can go ahead and mail the Coldwell Banker Vanguard check. If there are other checks, for example, CBV Cares or third-party checks that need to be mailed, they can all be mailed along with the closing disclosure straight to our corporate office to the attention of the closing department. That'll help make sure things get into the right hands. If you didn't have a chance to process your commission or to create the pay at closing prior to the closing, what we'll do is go ahead and process all of the checks at the same time and mail you your check straight from corporate. So if you're going to attend it, try to go ahead and make sure that your pay at closing is there so that you can walk away with your check. If the closings are occurring virtually, which we know a lot of them are these days, please just make sure to again start with that pay at closing. That helps make sure that the admin gets information over to the closing agent. You may also again want to confirm that the closing agent has the correct information by sharing a copy of the wiring instructions for commission with them. And it includes both wiring instructions and mailing instructions. Not a bad thing to go ahead and request an electronic copy of the documents for yourself to upload into ProWorks. And then of course, you and the closing agent can agree that you will come by and pick up your check, or if they mail it to corporate with any other information, that check will be mailed directly to you. The closing agent, again, if their choice whether they want to go ahead and wire the funds to Coldwell Banker Vanguard or go ahead and mail them. If there are third-party checks or again CBV Cares checks, they may want to go ahead and mail information, and those wiring instructions will include both wiring for CBV funds and then mailing instructions for documentation. Any additional checks are going to be mailed to corporate, and anything should be mailed to the attention of the closing department. Again, this helps everything get into the right hands. Unfortunately, if there wasn't time to produce your pay at closing prior to this, your check will be processed at corporate and then mailed to you directly. So what is this wiring instructions, or what are these wiring instructions for the commission account? The wiring instructions include a few pieces of information that are very important to keep the process moving forward. For example, they contain the wiring directions for any funds that are going to be wired straight to the CBV commission account. They will also contain mailing information so that it gets into the right hands. That's the closing department. It'll include some additional notes for you, just reminders of things you want to do as well as things you want to remind the closing agent about, and some notes for the closing agent to make sure that they have the process down. So where do you find these wiring instructions? The wiring instructions are in the back office. You can go straight to the support view and click on the forms drawer. The forms drawer contains these documents. All you have to do is, when you're in the forms drawer, scroll on down to your closing and escrow forms. Roll right on down to the wiring instructions for the commission account. This will make sure that the correct information gets out to the closing agent so that the funds land in the right location. If you have any questions about this process, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or to reach out to Vicki Terry. Hope you've had a great afternoon. Let me know if there's anything that we can do to help, and best wishes.